be showing you how to make plaster hands. So look inside your boxes and you're gonna find a container that looks like this. And inside that there should be a pink bag and a white bag. These are the things we're gonna need for this activity. And then there's also a few things you're gonna wanna find around your house. So the very first thing I want everyone to do is find some kind of newspaper or old material you don't care much about, like I'm using these paper bags, and lay that down so you have an area to work on and you won't get your counters messy. Or you could also do this one outside if you'd prefer to work there. Next, you're gonna wanna find a big mixing bowl. I would recommend that you find a plastic one and a big plastic spoon to mix with. And then you're gonna need a liquid measuring cup, and that's all you need for this activity. Okay, so the first thing you're gonna wanna do is make sure you have a nice area to work on all the materials you've got. Once you've got that down, we're gonna use this container and measure out 6 cups of water to put inside. So, make sure it's exactly 6 cups. Okay, that's 2. Four. This thing has 2 cups that it holds. And that is 6 cups of water. Okay, once you have that, what we're first gonna do is decide what positions you want your plaster hands to be in the end. So I think I'm gonna do mine. I'm gonna do just one hand so I can keep the other one clean to show you things. And I'm gonna do it a little bowl like this. And I wanna do that so I could have maybe something to keep change in, or just like kind of a little bowl that looks like a hand. I think it'd be cool. So once you've decided a position you're gonna put your hand in, you can take a while to think of what you wanna do. Place it in just the water for now, and just practice holding it, and then make any adjustments you need to make sure that you'll be comfortable holding that position for 2 to 3 minutes. And what you can do 2 hands too, and what you want to make sure doesn't happen is that your hand isn't touching the side of the container or the bottom, because that's going to lead to some holes in it. So I would recommend you just hold this for 1 to 2 minutes and just feel how it feels, and make sure you'll be comfortable holding it for the full time once the plaster's in, or once the mold is in. Yeah, so you can dry off your hands. And then what we're gonna do is empty this pink bag, I have some scissors to cut this open, into your container. It's okay if it's a little messy, that's why we put down the newspaper. And then for about 1 minute, I'll set a timer. You're gonna wanna mix this, and it's okay if some is spilling out the top. I'm just kind of doing an up and down motion. And then you're gonna wanna put your hand in the position that you want it in, and this is when we're gonna insert it for 2 to 3 minutes. Then around 2 to 3 minutes, I'm gonna check if it's ready, but I'm gonna take my fingers, they're kind of messy from the plaster, and just poke around the mold and make sure that my finger's coming up dry. So if that's all good, then you're ready to go. Otherwise, hold it for about another 20 seconds to make sure it's set. And then you're gonna take your hand and just kind of wiggle it around, really gentle, to release your hand from the mold. Whew, awesome. Now you can rinse off your hands, get the stickiness off. And we're gonna be using this spoon again. So take your spoon and you can peel off the mold that's stuck to it. And make sure this is going in the trash or somewhere, not just on your counter. I'm gonna rinse the spoon too. Okay, so we're done with the first step. The next part is just going to be putting the plaster in here and forming that hand that you can use. Okay, so you can set aside your pink bag. We're done with that. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to use 2/3 cup, 1 2/3 cup, sorry, of water into your bowl again. We got 1 cup, and now 2/3 cup. And that's 2/3 cup. And then we're going to cut open your white bag this time. And pour all this into your water. And then they recommend that you leave about a spoonful in the bag in case you need to repair any imperfections later. There, that looks good. So now you're going to want to pour about 3 spoonfuls of it into your mold. And I'm using a big spoon, so you could do. And then if your fingers were tilted at all, I'm turning it on the side and looking at it, making sure that it's filling up all those gaps. You're gonna wanna tap it on your counter about 20 times to really fill up all those gaps. We don't want any air bubbles in it. Okay. And now the next thing is just tilting it and filling it up, and keep spooning this in until you really can't fit any more plaster in there. So before it gets totally filled, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to tilt it to the side. Especially if you had your hand in more of a fist, it's going to need to get to all those places. So you're really going to want to be tilting it and tapping it, making sure that it can fill up and all the air bubbles. We want them to rise up so they don't get stuck there and mess up your plaster. So each time I'm going to tap it about 20 times. And if you're seeing little air bubbles rise from the bottom, that's good. That's what you want. Keep filling it till I really can't fit any more in. There we go. I think it's totally full now. Tap it a few more times. Just tapping and tilting. And then once you think you've got it totally full and you're sure that there's no air bubbles in it, all you're going to do is set this aside for 2 to 3 hours until your plaster hardens. Okay, so now that my plaster has hardened, we're ready for the last step of the plaster hands. So what we're going to do is push on the sides just to kind of break the suction inside the container. And once you feel like your mold is loose inside and not stuck to the sides, you can gently flip this over and then continue to do what you were doing and try to squeeze out your thing. And you might need to go back in and make sure you can kind of press it away. Whoop, and there it goes. So once you have your mold out, flip it over so your hand is there, and you're just gonna really gently try peeling your mold away from the plaster hand. And if you have a lot of twisted fingers and stuff, this part can be kind of tricky. So just make sure you go slow. Make sure you're not going to break the plaster, which is pretty fragile at this stage. So I'm just kind of taking big chunks off of around my hand. You can see on this side, the hand is starting to be formed. It's almost out. And there you go, your plaster hand. And that will be your finished project. And you can paint these and do all sorts of things with them, but you want to make sure you wait 5 days for it to dry before you apply any paint or change anything about it. All right, thank you so much for doing this activity with me, and I hope you had fun.